All right, all right. Here we
Hi.
go. So, um, a little bit before this, I was on I just kind of like I looked up like trans debates on that were going on live, and I found one that had Matt Dillahunty in it. And so for those that may not know, Matt Dillahunty, he's I listened to him for a long time, and he was a host on the Atheist Experience, and he did he in many ways. I have a sneeze. Usually they come in threes, but maybe not this time.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, I'm a loud sneezer, so I have to make sure that I mute. I can almost feel another one coming. Um, so I he kind of helped me kind of, I guess, think critically and really examine a topic from a lot of different angles. Um, is kind of what I got out of him. And so I was listening to him in this talk, and he was dealing with some caller who, as usual, they're not very, very good at bringing their point across or anything like that. And so what the guy was kind of talking about, I missed a lot of it, but he was kind of like, how does somebody know that they're trans? And that was the question that he was kind of pitching. And so I kind of thought about it. And so I actually just decided to ask the question to the chat. And I said, but I asked it a little bit differently. Not how do you know that somebody is trans? But I asked, what does it take for someone to be, like, what are the requirements to be trans? What does it take to be trans? And two people pretty much immediately were like, basically, in short, which one person said it, they said, you just decide to. That's all that it takes. And that just kind of sent me down a little bit of a mind rabbit hole.
Yeah. Well, in one sense, even if that's all it takes, how much value is it really? I mean, how valuable is something if anyone can just claim it?
Well, that's kind of where it was. That's kind of where I was eventually kind of going towards, was like, okay, so if it's just a decision, this was the second part of my question, was like, if it's just a decision, or if it's just a decision to um be trans, that you're the opposite gender, and you don't have to do anything. Like, I could say, I am a trans woman, and suddenly now I am a trans woman. Does that give me access to the privileges of the opposite sex?
Yeah.
Right?
I am a I am a black woman from Sacramento, or from some place where they give you $1 million for being black.
California.
Yeah,
Yeah,
someplace someplace
Sacramento
in
or San Diego or wherever
there.
that is.
I just
Um,
identify as that. Give me my $1 million.
yeah, well, I mean, I don't think that
Right, you're
we're
talking
not
about
at a societal
what
point
does that
where we.
afford
I
you?
get the joke. Yeah,
But I'm
we're
saying,
not
like,
at a
what does it
societal.
actually afford you by being trans? That's what you're
Right.
getting to, I think.
And yeah, and so it's kind of like, okay, does that allow me to then, hey, I identify, like, I decide that I'm a trans woman. Do I now get women's scholarships? Do I now get, I can go into the women's restroom, no problem, right? I get to go into the women's locker room. I get to play in women's sports. I get to go to women's shelters. I can go into all of these spaces that have been specifically created so that men are not able to be a part of
Prowl.
them,
Yeah, to either prowl or to just,
or to take advantage, or whatever
yeah.
the situation is, right? And so I find it very interesting that, you know, and I never really got an answer for it. And it felt like when I would ask my follow-up questions, like they weren't even really being posted. Like, it was like they weren't, because I would go on to, like, I had it on my phone, I had the chat up, and then I'd have it on my PC, and I would type it in my PC, but I wouldn't see it appear in the chat on the phone, and then I type it in the phone and I wouldn't see it appear up there. And so I was kind of like, I don't know what's going on. But eventually I kind of got the question. I managed to reword it or something like that, and I got it to come out. But I never really got
Oh,
an answer to it.
was it censored because of how you wrote it?
That's kind of what I thought. And then when I changed one word, which was sex, and I thought that it was really interesting because my question, I think it was if it's a decision, does that enable that individual to have access to the people to the people of the opposite sex? And I thought that the word sex, because I needed that because I'm talking about, it's my sex. There's sex and gender, depending on your framework, are two different things. One is an expression. One is the biological makeup of who you are. Like the sex is a more specific term for your biological aspect, whereas
Gender has
gender,
been turned into something that has been separated from it, but it's
right? They've
not
separated,
typically been separated, and so that's just a newfangled outlook on life.
right? And to be honest, I think it's an easy separation to make. Because
I
if,
guess.
if if they're if they're the same thing, then what's the point in having the other? You know. Um,
Well, because gender has kind of behavioral.
well, there's man and woman, and there's male and female,
Yeah,
and the male is specific to your biology, and then a man and a man is it draws from your biology as
but
an
it's a culture.
expression.
It's a cultural, like almost like what is a man? Like someone that takes care of takes care of the household or does like
They're the
whatever it is, whatever we
protector,
decide a man is over the years. So they're trying to
right?
change what that part is, and so that's different, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think like just like linguistically, it was an easy thing to have people understand. Like, okay, we can make this differentiation really easily. But I think that it gets more complicated when it's like, oh, when what people are doing is they're taking trans women and they're removing the trans from it, and they're just saying trans women are women. So then the statement is women are women, right? And then
Right.
when you lose the trans, then you can do anything. You are a woman, therefore you get access to all of this. And that's kind of where my point goes.
Right. Well, the question of when you say what you gain access to, it's like, okay, so I'm just supposed to believe you that you are a woman. So I'm just supposed to let you walk into the women's locker room, but like it's like if you're walking in there and you're actually just a pervy guy that just wants to sit there and look at naked
Could be.
girls. I mean, you can be a predator, and we have to just believe you. We just have to believe you that you're not. We just have to trust that you're not, and just
Yeah.
so that we can not offend a certain number of trans people that exist.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous that's how they're expected.
Yeah. And so, I get to go collect imaginary material to take home with me,
Yeah. So
for my
you
own
so you
personal
track
pleasure.
down this guy. You track down this guy, and you are trying to have some sort of chat conversation and engage with the situation because people weren't quite asking the right type of questions, and
Well, I just kind of I knew I had this.
you
I
feel
knew
like
I
you're
had
being
this.
censored a bit, where they were actively trying to control.
I think
Um,
they might. I almost think that there was like key words or key phrases,
yeah,
that they were like, if somebody posts these phrases or these words, then they don't get. It
right.
just
So
doesn't show
like
up.
for instance, biological sex is probably not allowed in that
Right,
situation.
which is what I said. Is that was it? I said biological sex. Does somebody get the
They're like, let's
privileges
not even allow
of the
that word here.
opposite biological
True
sex?
that. That is so.
Yeah,
That would make me have just disrespect him altogether. I mean, it would just be like, what is this?
yeah,
What kind of garbage is that? We're supposed to have an intellectual discussion, and then you're pulling this crap.
yeah. And it was interesting because he's kind of talking, and one of these days I may end up calling in. Um, and it was like, there's, and he's kind of talking like, look, you can't even have like an honest conversation. I'm here to have an honest conversation, and I'm kind of like, dude, honest conversation. I'm not even able to say a biological sex in the chat. Like this is a term that's not even that won't allow to be able to be posted. How is that how does that enable, like, you're altering language? And I don't know if this is specifically true. I didn't do enough testing. All I did, I posted it multiple times, this
I'm
question, because I
sure.
did a copy paste, and it failed every time. Like, it would show up on
So
mine,
I've watched a
but
lot
it
of.
wouldn't show up on the other.
I've watched a ridiculous number of hours of Twitch streamers where. So I've seen that exact same type of thing happen, and I've watched Twitch streamers that always try to troll other people's chats, and
Yeah,
so they'll go into their friends' chats and do whatever else, and they walk through the idea of like, oh, they must have that thing blocked. Let me write this other different way, and so like I have a strong feel for how that feels, and that sounds exact. They do that all the time. They have certain things they
yeah.
just make. It doesn't even show up. Your chat just goes poof. They
and
don't have
and
to censor it. It just
the issue that I
auto
had
squelch.
the issue that I kind of had with it, is that it was like, it made it so that, God, I got this little alfalfa hair that just keeps on wanting to pop up. Um, the issue that I had with it is that, like, I'm trying to be very clear in my language. Like, I'm not talking about gender, because it's like, hey, I identify as a woman. Like, hey, I'm trans. I'm now a trans woman. I mean, I'm not writing this, but my point is, I'm a trans woman, and being a biological male, not changing anything about
Yeah.
myself, right? If I were to just say, I'm a trans woman, and um because I'm a man, then do I be it starts to not make sense. I'm a trans woman, but I'm a biological man. But it's like, well, if you're a biological man, then you're not a trans one, then
Right.
you're not a
So
woman. And it
obviously,
it just confuses and makes no sense.
that's why they have to eliminate certain words from the conversation because if they strategically eliminate certain words, then all their stuff can make sense together.
Yeah.
Like they can, yeah. So like if they exclude terms that make it confusing, that it can all kind of keep together, and that's the point. So this guy that was that's an atheist argument guy in the past, which has been important for you. He's he's is he the one hosting this, or is he amongst?
I think he's like a regular guest who is
So
I
he wasn't
basically
one necessarily squelching the chat and doing things. That was by
no,
whoever the
it's like
outfit was.
by the moderation, or by the rules that they
What was
had
the
typed in.
what was the host channel? That's who does it.
Yeah. I
Okay.
think it was the host channel that basically puts I presume, puts these words in as filters to say, like, you can't say the F word. There's
Yeah,
certain
that's typical.
words that you can't
What they
say.
do is add other things that just because they don't want to encounter it.
Right. Because it's not for pro their ideology.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, if you can't, like, you're not having an honest discussion if I'm not even able to write in the chat and ask a legitimate question in a way that makes sense, right? Because if I'm to say, um a biological man, it's like, well, what are you talking about? Are you talking about a gender? Because that's the way that it is. I mean, they have separated sex and gender. There's male, female,
Yep.
that's the sex, and then there's man, woman, that's the gender. And if I can't even distinguish those two from each other, how is this an honest conversation? It's a very strange um kind of situation that we're in. So I might at some point try to get in there, and I'll probably test out their little chat filter, and I'll ask them about it too. Like, hey,
Yeah.
what's going on with this? I mean, I can't even be clear with my language so that other people can even understand me. I have to reword things, and it just seems really really strange.
Yeah. So, and earlier you were telling me that when you were talking to him, you started to change or question something. What were you saying? You said this has made you start to. Well, you said I think you maybe just losing trust in him. Is that what it is, or was
Yeah,
you
it
said
kind
you
of
were
had
evolving in
it
some
kind of
way?
made me think a little bit more about, like, I think in the past his arguments were pretty sound, based off of what he was arguing against, which very frequently the people that he argues against aren't really the best
Yeah.
at making the case that they're aiming for. So I think he's kind of like scraping the bottom of the barrel intellectually, because these are just
Yeah, it's not
more
like
or less
Destiny
dumb
came in.
religious
It's not like
people who
Destiny
just,
asked a question or something, right?
yeah, it's yeah, it wasn't anything like that. um but I kind of was like, and I don't think I heard enough or was paying enough attention to what he was saying in this to really get a good feel of it. But he's kind of just talking about certain things and in certain ways, that I was kind of like, it's strange to me that you haven't really thought about, or maybe you have, but now you're just kind of got this cognitive dissonance, of thinking in just like where the problems lie. And it's like, if what you have to do is warp language in order to win the argument, you're not really winning an argument. You're just, maybe to
You're just
dumber
setting a new
people.
narrative and just closing your ears. Just
Yeah.
saying la 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 la. Nope, this is the truth. If you say anything different, I'm not going to hear it.
Yeah, it's completely antithetical to how I knew him to be in the past.
Hmm.
In the past, it was like, if you can show me this information, if you can do this. But it's like, at this point, it kind of more or less seems like you're not really you're not really taking this on actually
Yeah.
honestly. You're not even using the tools that you in effect taught me um in the past. So,
So
I don't really know. Hold
yeah.
on.
So
You
okay.
go ahead. I'm going to close this door real quick.
Yep. Yep. So for me, I had a cool little experience today where I was realizing that the best kind of content for me to watch are crossover events. When you have personalities that hosting a show together, or like a guest on whatever else. I mean, I've always known what I like, but I realized, because the Daily Wire has been doing that a lot lately, and I'm
Mhm.
like, that's all they need to do is that, because I always click on it. Like you have like Brett Cooper has been going on with
Oh yeah.
Matt, and she had a video with JP,
Mhm.
waking with JP. She had some crossover event where she went and they did some skits together and stuff, and then you also have you had Candace Owens and Michael Knowles today, and um, that was really fun. Sorry, I'm sorry. This is connected in the way to your thing, because only because it's only because it's like only because it's content that we consume and we see it in another way, type of thing. It's more
Yeah.
like, yeah, that's only real way it's connected. It's not like just some grand connection here, but it's just more like, what, I'm so listening to these people, but I see them even grow when they're talking to each other, people that respect each other and stuff. And like watching Matt Walsh and Brett Cooper go fishing, right?
Yeah.
And where Matt Walsh is very curmudgeon, whatever else. So like, he'll play this idea of like, so I have to do this. Okay, but he loves it. He loves doing this fishing thing, and she messes up. She like ruins her pole, like where it's like, how do you even do that? And like it didn't work, whatever else. But then like you could tell that she was enjoying almost like a father-daughter situation. And like, but you
Yeah.
could see that there was a relationship, and it's so that's very genuine. Even though it was filmed and whatever else, but it was nice. It was nice to see that type of thing. And so, and then I see David Rubin throw himself tear himself apart constantly, just being
Oh
a shill
man.
for Santos. Like it's like I like DeSantis, but you like David Rubin is just falling apart. Like he went on Megyn Kelly, went all these different places, and he just says things like he's saying that's not a hate bill that came out, basically a hate speech bill. There's a bill that came out that basically um incriminates people more depending on what was in their heart. So therefore, that's like a hate speech bill. Like conservatives are not for that. Why do we pass that? Why did they sign that? And I'm
Mhm.
against that. But like David Rubin will just back him. No, it's not. It's not. Absolutely not. And just it's I don't. It's weird to see
You
commentators
know,
change right in front of your eyes. It's like
yeah.
what let's be sane.
Dave Rubin, I used to like him.
Yeah,
Um,
I did too.
when he
I,
kind of started out, I liked him. Um, and I ended up kind of just getting I guess what it felt like more of a gut feeling of like he doesn't seem like he's honest is kind of how it translates to me.
to me, I feel yes, I see what you're saying, but I feel like he is. I don't think he's intentionally dishonest. I think he's more emotionally.
Like he's picked a side and
He's a
then
little
he
crazy. He's a
pushes
little
that
emotionally
side.
crazy. He's almost like he's almost playing into the girl part. Where like sometimes like no, okay,
I was just kind of thinking that on it
yeah, it's
a
like
second ago.
don't. I feel so bad about it, but like where something is very important, and even if they're
He
not
gets into the
logically
drama
correct,
pettiness of it.
even if they're not logically correct, they just argue hard for it anyways, and you just have to be like, okay, but you're not right. It's like I get it; it's important to you, but you're not right. And in a
Yeah.
relationship, when you're with somebody, obviously, being right isn't always as important. The relationship's more important, right? But in
Yeah.
a political situation like this, I'm sorry, you're just wrong, Dave Rubin, and he's
Well,
arguing Vivek about this stuff.
he has this kind of way of speaking that is like matter of fact. Like this is just true. Like kind of a way of speaking. You know,
I think you kind of have to though in that situation. I think that most of the
he has it in a different way. In like it's almost like a condescending. It's almost in condescension. Like I don't think that Ben Shapiro he has the manner of speaking where he's saying it as if this is true, but he's saying as if this is true and this is true to me, or he can say
for this
this is a
reason. And
fact.
he'll say, for this reason. Say, and you can argue
Yeah,
this. Say, and you can make this argument that this, but I don't think that lines up because of
he
this.
explores.
Yes, he
He's more
does.
exploring
He does.
things.
Ben
Dave
Shapiro is
Rubin.
very, very articulate like that. I recommend him to people, but I need to start recommending Megyn Kelly instead to more liberal people because she's
I don't know. I mean, I think
easier.
that to be honest, I don't know who I would recommend to um, liberal people because here's my rationale for it is that like for liberal people um they have gone so far to the left that like they have so many roadblocks that are set up
Yeah.
like hey you make fun of these people. Nope, not gonna do it. You don't like
Yeah.
these people. Nope, not gonna do it.
So, but I was
Like there's
talking with,
all these things and it's like okay, so I can't approach you with comedy. I can't approach you with facts. I can't approach you like I've shown clips of Matt Walsh interacting with a trans person And it was kind of trippy to me because it was like, okay, he's like, okay, what is a woman is what he says, right, to this person, and they can't define it.
Yeah,
They're
not part of the
they're
movie.
basically like, it is whatever I believe that I am, and it's what other women say that I am. So they are justifying, like, they are justifying it. And this was in like a college talk or whatever. And so when I played that, they took it as like a really insulting kind of a thing. They were like, he was being a jerk. He was being a real jerk about it. And then later on, like, it was, I mean, time had passed, like, I don't know, maybe a month or two had passed. And I effectively asked the same question. I was like, what do you think a woman is? Um, and they were, a little reluctant to answer. So they just asked me, and I was like, an adult human female, that's what it is. And they're like, yeah, I'd agree. And then I kind of explained, like, yeah, there's people out there who think that, you know um being a woman is
Just
whatever they think that a
yeah,
woman is. They can identify as whatever they want. It's completely subjective. And it was like the same conversation, but we were having that conversation. And then they came out and they were like,
yeah.
yeah, that just doesn't make any sense. So it's like,
That is true. People
there's
get
these
stuck.
roadblocks. That's the thing, is that there's these
So
roadblocks where, like, if they get a vibe that this person is rude, or
yeah,
they have an agenda, or they have ill intent, if they have any inkling of any of this stuff, a roadblock just goes up. But if you have that conversation with them in a neutral way, like,
when
they can reach the right conclusion. They can
it's
see
true.
how this is really silly.
I guess what I'm saying when I suggest to people, it's people like there was a customer, a wife, and some of the husband too, but he's working from home and whatever else. I was making delivery, and I ended up talking to her for like 45 minutes, honestly, about random and whatever else. About at first we were joking about their garage and things about things, but
Hmm.
it got to the idea of politics, and I'm a conservative guy, and they're definitely liberal guys and whatever else. And it was fine. It was whatever. We're talking about, oh, no, but I was having rational. I was my mind was really together that day. It's not always like that. It was really
Yeah.
nice. It was slow, and it was slow and methodical, and I was just it was very chill, saying things, whatever. And she's like saying, hey, so who do you suggest I listen to? If I were to listen to someone on your side to whatever else, and like I needed a better answer for this because I said, you know what, honestly, um, I don't listen, so I'm gonna say a name that is probably not going to be, it's probably gonna strike you as toxic immediately. And honestly, I haven't listened to it as a non-conservative. And then I dropped the name Ben Shapiro. Says it's like what Ben Shapiro does, even though he's definitely conservative, it's like he has this part of a show during the Trump presidency that was called Good Trump, Bad Trump.
Yeah.
And he said, that Trump is a giant hammer, and sometimes when he hits a nail, it feels really good, and when he hits babies, it doesn't feel so good.
Yeah.
So, and he says, like, this is the good things that Trump did, and these are the bad things Trump did, and
Yeah.
he says, and he goes through and does that, and he does it with almost all of his points. He'll sit there and he'll have his definite strong position, and then he'll pose a non. He doesn't pose a straw man position, which is the straw man argument, for those who don't know, is a really easily defeatable position that you post up that's supposed to represent the other side, so that you can just smash it down real quick and own it, right? So you can
But
own
it's a
them,
total
you know,
misrepresentation.
right? So he doesn't put up the straw man arguments. He tries to put up their best possible argument and then talks it down and say that doesn't work because of this. And so so that's why, and I think she took it well, and I think that'd be good. But I think that a better answer would have been like a Megan Kelly, because she's a pleasant person to listen to, and she has more fun content, and she doesn't really go hard in politics. I mean, she does go to hard in politics, but it's
She
more like
kind
a
of
reporter
does. I've
style,
listened
and
to her.
she does
And
go into it, but she asks fair questions of everybody. She always asks hard, fair questions of people. I don't know. Do you disagree with that part?
um I don't disagree necessarily. I think that, very much like Tim Pool is a very reasonable, rational person. However, he has his moments, and when those moments strike, he gets very
Mhm. Yeah.
bold about stating his position.
He
Um,
he puts his stake down in the ground.
yeah, and
He
it
posts up.
doesn't come off in a it
Yeah.
doesn't come off in a hey, I want to convince you. It comes off as like, I'm raising the flag, let's rally together so that we can get this thing accomplished, or we can
Mm.
spread this idea, is kind of what he does. And so I think that there's a lot of people, and to be honest, I mean, if somebody were to say, hey, you should listen to these left-wing guys, like, I don't think I could find anybody back in the day, like
Right. You could.
pre Trump even showing up on the scene. I thought the Young Turks were actually pretty good. Um, but they just
But
had,
Cenk is such a blubbering idiot, man.
sure, but he used to make better points. Like, I don't know if you listened to him prior to, like, if you
No.
ever heard him at
No,
all
I only heard okay.
prior to
I've
2016.
heard him when he did guest appearances on places as a guest, and I've heard
See,
him.
you're talking. This is like the new warped, out of his mind jank. I'm talking about prior to all of this.
How many years ago?
It's 2023, 22, 21, 20, 19, 18, 17, 16,
Oh, no,
15,
no, no,
20.
no, 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 no,
So
no.
8 or 9 years ago.
I didn't know who he was much earlier than Trump, like maybe a
Right.
little bit, but
Right. And so at that point, like, I remember talking to a much older guy, and he was a conservative, and I was like, I think that you should, he showed a little interest, like, okay, so there's like left-wing ideas, these left things, what kind of things? Because at that point I was very much a Democrat, and very much on the left, and I was like, yeah, I mean, you should listen to if you're interested, check out the Young Turks. They're very reasonable, they're very rational, they make really good points, um, but at this point in time, like, I don't think that there's anybody that, I feel like who
well,
you
you
could
could say
listen
Jimmy
to is
Dore.
Joe
You could
Rogan.
say Jimmy Dore, kind of, right? But he's
Jimmy Dore, you can't suggest Jimmy Dore either, because he flies off the handle all the time.
he does.
I
I
think
think
the
it's fun though.
person,
He flies off in a fun way, in my opinion.
yeah, but the person that I think you can actually point to is probably Joe Rogan. And Joe Rogan's not a conservative,
Right.
he's not on the right, but he's somebody that you listen to, that a lot of other just reasonable people who are also not on the right
Yeah.
also listen to.
I
And
haven't listened
it's
to him in
like,
like 2 months. I should check what shows he has on there.
yeah, I mean, I think that he's probably the right answer, if I'm to be honest, and
Yeah, but
really scope everything out.
this lady was probably 55. She's not gonna listen to Joe Rogan and want to have all the swear bombs and all the and and jokes about whatever, like
Recommend an episode. Oh, there's this one. I mean,
that's true.
I would say recommend the uh Dave Smith. I would recommend Dave Smith. I would actually recommend the Dave Smith Joe Rogan podcast. Any one of them, because it's mostly Dave Smith talking, and Joe Rogan's just kind of like corralling him, and
But
he's just kind of
I
directing.
guess if I were to do something, I wouldn't recommend something that is hard content like what you and I might talk about or what you would talk about in some of these shows that are intellectual. I would recommend something where Joe Rogan is being charismatic, having a fun interview with people, and
Well, then you're dealing with
based stuff
swear
comes
words
out.
and stuff.
Huh? Was
Then
that?
you're dealing with I mean, you could do the Duncan Russell, Joe Rogan and Duncan Russell
Where
episode.
base stuff comes out is what I mean. We're like, yeah, they
Yeah,
talk about the reality of things. Yeah, this stuff, they're just going crazy over there doing these weird things and whatever else.
you
And I
do
put,
Joe Rogan and Neil deGrasse Tyson,
man,
where
oh,
he handed Neil deGrasse Tyson his ass.
I need to watch that. I only watch clips of that, and I'm like,
I got
ooh, I gotta watch that.
frustrated. I had to pause it. I was getting so upset, and it
Neil
was
deGrasse
like,
Tyson is just so dumb. He's so all in with the COVID thing and all in with with global warming, as in like those those two things are the pinnacles of what the civilization is all about. He's so bought into those two concepts. It's amazing to me.
He picks a topic, he picks a thing, and he makes the decision, and he says, this is my position, and I'm going to defend it to the death. And it's, I in that Joe Rogan interview, I lost so much respect for him. Because I could
So
the dishonesty, I can tell I could read dishonesty from a mile.
yeah.
Um,
So I haven't watched that whole thing. I've seen him. He's seen his bad takes on a lot of things. But what I do enjoy
it's
about
worth
him,
a
is I
watch.
still will listen to, is his little blurbs with his this other black commentator guy. I don't know who he is, but they're friend during the pandemic. They had little blurbs about science. They basically Skyped into each other, and
Mm,
he put these Facebook posts that were like 10 minutes long, talking about things about why is the sky blue. It's like, well, was it because of this? No, and it explains all sorts of cool things of where how, oh my gosh, when he sticks to strictly like science and like the wonders of how things happen in math and stuff and how it works together. He's great. He's fantastic. But then you go to these social issues, and he's like, he's trying to drag his clout into something that is subjective like that, and it's just so
hmm
dumb.
yeah.
Anyway, I don't know how we got on Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Well, just
Um,
through Joe
he's
Rogan, but
an astronomer
it's
and
yeah.
mathematician and all sorts of things like that. So
I mean, he's a very smart guy, and it reminds me also of gosh, it's like, man, how they've fallen with Sam Harris. It's like, there's the clip of him, and he's like, he effectively says, I think he just outright says, I don't care what Trump could have done. He could have, like, or I don't care what Biden could have
Biden
done.
did.
I don't care what he could have done. He could have murdered babies for all I care. Um, I I'm okay
With any the conspiracy
anything
involved in
that
into making
prevents
sure that
Trump.
Trump didn't get right. And he said all that stuff, and he backs it up,
He
and
doesn't even, yeah, he pushes forward with it, and he tries to say, oh well, this is actually what I meant, and that was an uncut interview,
yeah.
right? And
Well,
he didn't even really backtrack. He basically just said, I think that people are just misunderstanding me. But it's like,
and I've
you
seen
offer
Joe
no
Rogan and
alternative explanation.
I've seen Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson talking about it. It's like, yeah, I don't know, our friend Sammy Harris is a little bit
He's
needs a little
lost
bit
it.
of help or something. Yeah, he's a little lost.
I mean,
They've talked about it in the show.
I think one of the best debates that's ever been had was Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris.
Yeah.
I thought that was probably among the best debates that have ever been made. Um, and that was only a few short years ago. That was maybe like 5-6 years ago, I guess. But I mean, to see this guy who I've grown up to know and learn to be like, he is a logical
He's
person.
a logical atheist person that
Yeah, who
that seems to
follows
make
the
sense even if he's wrong. Yeah.
he follows the breadcrumb trails so that he can reach the correct conclusion.
Yeah.
And that's what was so offensive to him, about him, for me, is that he could just blatantly abandoned all of it and said, I'm willing to accept a lie if it means that I get what I want. And
Yep.
I was like, that is
Yep.
exactly
Ends
the
justify
thing
the
that you are
means.
pushing, that you rail against for religious people. You're like, you guys think that you can just have this belief, and logic, reason, rationale, it doesn't matter to you as long as you get what you want. And that's what he was so, like, in some ways, like, bothered by. And to see him just be like, I'm throwing this out. Like, at least that was his interpretation to some degree. And it's like, you just completely defeated yourself,
Yeah.
and then for him to be against Elon Musk in all of this stuff of, like, free, like, dude, like, how can you not see that Elon Musk is literally pushing free speech? He's literally
Yeah.
enabling people to be able to speak.
He doesn't like that people are being platformed that are speaking nonsense.
To him, it's
I
nonsense.
know.
This actually reminds me. This isn't necessarily about trans per se, but it involves a trans situation. There's a video that came out recently. I'm wondering if I could be able to access it quickly.
If you could even play it, we couldn't do that in the prep.
I wouldn't want to play it. I think I probably can. It's called Gender Wars. You can find it on YouTube. And so there's basically what happened. And I thought that this is a really interesting thing that happened. So there's this woman, Kathleen. I can't remember her last name, but she is up.
Is it a
She was
documentary?
invited. Huh?
Is it a documentary, The Gender Wars?
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
documentary. And about like 30 some odd, like 20 some late 20s, early 30s, mark. They kind of have this. They're showing little clips of the debate that they have, and so it's like Kathleen and Cass. And so Cass is like a non-binary, like a they them type of a person. And so Kathleen is basically the topic at hand is the right to defend. Like, should you have the right to defend? And so Kathleen she ended up getting really upset, and like on the verge of tears because of what had happened in this debate. And in the debate, Cass had gone first and basically was like, we should not be able to even listen to what this person has to say, because they are beyond reason, they are beyond offense, they are unable to, like, they are promoting transphobia, they're promoting all of this like negative stuff that's damaging people, it's hurting people, and we shouldn't even listen to it, right? We should, and if we do listen to it, it should just be dismissed. And people are like applauding and all this stuff, and he really made him out to be like a villain, and Kathleen kind of gets up there and she's, like visually and verbally upset. You can hear it in the voice. And but basically just kind of like took what Cass had said and just like said, well, I'm not going to address anything that they said. Instead, I'm gonna make my case. But she kind of ends up doing it holding back tears. And I was thinking about it and I was like, that would have been the perfect opportunity to win the debate. Because what she could have done is say, what you just said is highly offensive. I am very hurt. And you can hear it in my voice that I am distraught. I am very bothered. And what's even more bothersome is that there's all of these other people who are applauding me being offended by the things that you have said. Now, I am in favor of you having the right to offend me and make me feel the way that I do right now. Because all of these people, you said a message, you wanted to get up and you wanted to say something, and all of these people wanted to hear it, and they were happy to hear it. They are happy to be offended by me. And what I'm for is you having that right to do it. And that means you get to offend me, and you can even take pleasure in it. And that gives me the right to offend you, even if I don't take pleasure in it. And it's like, boom,
Yep.
end of the debate. Like, you just proved my point.
Yep.
You just proved my point. You got up here and you offended me by saying that I don't even get to speak and that I'm a terrible person and that I shouldn't even be listened to. And that's offensive. You are depersoning me. And then you want to sit here and tell me that I can't speak? That the things that I'm saying are depersoning other people? Like, I think that if she had the self-awareness to kind of put those pieces together,
Yeah.
I think it would have probably been an absolutely viral moment, an absolute crushing of the entire thing. I mean, it would have been absolutely viral if she had the ability to put
Yeah.
that together. But it came out of left field for her, you know. But I think that that's an important question. Like, do we have the right to offend? And I think that that's also when people want to make that approach and they want to say we shouldn't even hear what you have to say because what you have to say is so hurtful to other people.
Yeah.
And then to just turn around and say, you know what, that's really hurtful to me.
I mean, the argument, yeah, the argument has been obviously argued since the founding of the country that free speech is not to protect speech that everyone likes. It's to protect speech that other people won't like.
Yeah,
And also, especially versus the government. That's what it's for specifically because you had so many monarchies and uh, and governments that were restricting speech. You couldn't say that's blasphemous. You can't say against our king, our God, basically. And so that's why our First Amendment exists. It's specifically because to allow us to say things that other people don't agree with. It's
yeah,
funny how people just try to like, oh, free speech if I agree with it. No, that's not how it works. It's precisely opposite of that.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
It's I think when everybody's just trying to shut people up, I think that when people are really just trying to shut people up, um, I feel like there's limits to it. I think there certainly are limits to it, and I think that the limits to what can be said,
Yeah, there,
I
there's
think effectively goes at here's kind of where I draw the line is um, incitement to violence, and threats, saying things like bomb in front of in an airport or an airplane or a crowded room or whatever, that can cause panic,
yeah.
and then um, certain things that would be applied to kids. Um, I think that kids should be allowed to be kids. I don't think that a lot of these topics are things that kids should be really diving into. And I think that when we have these kinds of topics that are being, explored with children who are very malleable and confused as it is, um, for them to effectively go through permanent, like life altering processes, I think is a very dangerous thing to enable. And I think that what people can maybe do is they can compare that to like religion. But I think if you believe in something and then you change your religion or you go to or you stop believing or whatever, that's not harming the body. There's not a permanent consequences. You raise a child to be Christian, and then that child ends up deciding, no, I'm not a Christian. Like, I don't believe in God. They're not their body isn't damaged. They've just gone through a different mental change. They're not really affecting society so much, you know. They're not trying to get into other people's bathrooms or sports or whatever, or taking their scholarships or anything like that because they no longer believe in God, or they've become Muslim, or whatever the situation.
There's an interesting debate about when you said free speech, that something that I've heard Michael Knowles refer to in the last 2 days or so. He alluded to it a little bit with Candace Owens. Um, the idea of, he said that I'm not a free speech absolutist, and
Mm-hmm.
there is a he has some defining characteristics for what that means, as opposed to how it should be and how it shouldn't be. So I'm actually going to listen to that soon, because I keep on hearing referred to that, and I know he debated somebody about it, and it'll
Mm-hmm.
be interesting to me because it probably has to do with where the lines are drawn, but he probably brings it down to a level of to a different basic level instead of just us deserving certain areas where it's okay and it isn't. I think he probably has it boiled down to some sort of spiritual or some sort of connection somewhere or something. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'm kind of interested in that. If you end up bumping into it,
Yeah.
send me a link because I'll give it a listen too. Because there's things that I agree with Michael Knowles on, and there's things I don't really agree with him. And something that he did that I was I was very happy about it for the left. I was very excited about how the left handled it. Um, is that he went up and he had a talk. He did his little college lecture, but then afterwards, it seems as though after everybody had left, he sat down with like another person who was like a pro-trans advocate, and then he sat down with two others who were also advocates, and he just had like a one-on-one discussion or a one-on-two
Yeah.
discussion with them. And
He
I
tries to
thought
organize at every event. He tries to organize that at every event. It's just a matter of if they're
if they're going to
participating
participate
people.
in it. And I
Correct.
thought that when they did that, I was like, you know what? I may disagree with these people. I may, I guess I could leave it at that to some degree. I may disagree with these people, but I respect the crap out of these people for sitting down and
Yeah.
having the conversation.
Because that means that at least they are good faith people that are maybe in our opinion screwed up with what they with how they see the world, but they're not like
They're
they're
not
at least not.
scrambled brains.
Yeah, they're not coming from an activist mindset when they're able to
Yeah.
listen like that. It's encouraging because they are not completely lost humans, as
Yeah.
opposed to people that are just wow, we want this so there, and you just need to be we need to shout
Yeah.
until you leave, until you stop your program. Those are lost humans. Those people, they don't
Yeah. I don't know
there's
what to
no
do
use
with those
talking to
people.
them. There's no use talking to them, not because they shouldn't be heard per se. I mean, they can't say what they want to say, but you're not going to take anything I say. So why waste my breath on you?
Well,
Like
it's more like it's not to me. It's not that like you're going to take any. You're not going to take anything that I say because all of these leftists effectively rejected everything that he was saying. But they at least they at least had the conversation. They at least approached it in good faith
yeah,
of and not with like this I'm going to shout you down. I'm going to like blah blah blah, and they would so there's a bit of a difference I think when you look at how these students were behaving and how like the people in the film what is a woman,
yeah,
like the doctor and all of these people, like all they were doing was avoiding the question. That's all that they were doing, avoiding the question, and then like creating a straw man of their own position so that they can prop it up more. And then when you would attack it and say, well, that doesn't work, they'd say, whoa, 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 you got to go over there. That's you got to go over there if you want to talk about that topic because we're talking about this one right now. It's like, no, I'm talking about that. No, 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 no. You're talking about this thing over here. And it's like, but then it just it reeks of dishonesty.
yeah.
These students at least, they were wrestling with the concepts. They were wrestling with the ideas, and I think that that's what's important. Is just to even just be engaged in wrestling. They can come to whatever conclusion they want. That's okay
Yeah.
by me. But as long as they're going through the process of trying to figure it out, because that's what I did a lot of in my late teens and early 20s was asking the question of like, okay, I this is something that I believe, this is where I'm at with this topic, but I don't really know why I have this belief. So I took that mental step to seek those answers. And I think that that's a really important thing for students to learn to do.
So this is random, but if I were to find a good Rush Limbaugh excerpt or like 20-minute monologue, that's obviously he's been um, dead a couple of
Passed
years.
for a while, yeah.
Um, I'm sure you probably have never heard him before speak because you came
I've
in
heard
late.
him, but I haven't. I've heard him, but I haven't really listened
So
to
I need
him.
to find a good representation to have you listen to hear it because like he did, like he comes, even though he's jocular and fun about different things, but he's not, definitely not coming from a spot of hate like people try to pretend. Like you might have heard that like he's just hate, he's just
I think he
shock
puts
jock.
off that vibe though.
um
He puts off an angry and upset vibe that the people on the other side are crazy and
yes,
they're
because
destroying
he
this country.
did weaponize the like the word liberal, and he's the one that made the word liberal into more of a slur. So yes, in that sense, but he's always been very kind-hearted about his arguments, especially if he
At
talked to
times, I'm
somebody.
sure.
Huh?
At times, I'm sure.
Yeah. So I can see there's a little resistance to it. That's fine. That's why I was curious because
Well, just because
I
that's like when I've listened to him,
yeah, it's
but it's
boisterous on purpose. He does that on
right,
purpose. He
of
plays,
course.
so many words that have so many words that he has that has meaning that you don't even know what it means if you don't listen all the time. It's almost like the more you
Yeah,
listen, the more you understand. Oh, he's referring to that, and he's being silly. He's being silly, and all
yeah.
these things they can definitely sound completely dismissive by people that aren't used to it. But it's more like it's a compilation of words that you don't even know what he actually is meaning by. He's referring to other things, and everyone that knows, and it's just kind of almost funny.
I think that it's probably a lot like how Tucker is,
Perhaps,
but Tucker uses sarcasm. Tucker uses sarcasm and irony. That's how he approaches all of these
yeah.
topics.
That ten
You
minute
know,
video is great. That 10-minute video,
it
he
was, and you know what he did a lot of sarcasm and irony
yeah,
because he's like, oh yeah, there's a Zelensky, and he's the best person in the world. Look at what he wants to do. He wants to
yes,
prolong this war, and this war is something that we should all be fighting for. And there's lots of deaths, and there's all these bombs that are going off, and he's blowing up dams that are killing up other people and trying to pin it on Russia, and that's completely believable. And it's like he just uses humor and sarcasm and irony
yeah,
to kind of just demonstrate how silly the narrative really is. But I think that if you're like immune to irony and sarcasm, um you know you're you're probably not gonna you're
yeah.
probably not gonna be too fond of him,
Yeah.
because he's just gonna come off as like mocking you is
Right.
what it
And
is.
that's what happened with Rush, I'm sure too. It's more like it's I guess I got the I'm probably seeing him through certain eyes also because I knew him for 20 years or more, more than that, honestly. But um it just yeah, I had to go back and look through some stuff again. It's been a while.
You know what I
Um
think it kind of is, and I think I do it sometimes too. Um, is I will I'll fabricate a person. I'll just make a person up of just somebody who's out there who thinks like this. And if you think like this, here's what's wrong with your thinking. Here's what's wrong with all of that. And in a sense, when I do that, I'm talking to somebody, and maybe I know them, maybe I don't know them, but it's like I'm demonstrating to you right now how stupid this is. I'm not putting it on you. I'm not talking about you. I don't know if you have this position. I know nothing, right? But I think that this position is really dumb and silly. And the types of people who take these kinds of positions probably are a little bit dumb and silly. So my message to you is not to you. I'm not necessarily vocalizing this, but in essence, it's kind of like I've created a box of a dummy. Here's somebody who's kind of dumb and silly, and they don't really have very good thinking thought processes. And you're outside of that box. Let's have you not get in that box. This is an invitation, and I'm explaining to you why this invitation that the people in this box are inviting you to is a bad idea to jump into this box with them. Because of all of these reasons, because of all this broken logic, don't get into this box. Because if you do, you're kind of just going to end up being a dummy. So let's not. You know what I mean? And I think that that's kind of what Rush Limbaugh can kind of do. I think that's what Tucker can kind of do. Is he creates these boxes of people, fabrication, like not real people.
You're saying he's creating a straw man about the whole liberal establishment?
No, no, not necessarily, because even in that video, he's pointing to Lindsey Graham. He's fabricating a box that a person. It's like there are people out there who think these things that are inside of this box, right? And he's poking and making fun of the people who are in that box. I don't know who's in this box. You know, you're not in this box. Are you? You're not in this. Of course, you're not in this box. You're a smart, intelligent person. You're not in this box.
I know what you're saying, but
yeah. so that's kind of how I can view him as just here's a fabricated person, and trying to maybe sway them out of it by just demonstrating how silly and ridiculous it all is.
Okay. I mean, okay, that's your impression of it. It's fine. I just he was.
I mean, if you've got a different take
on
I'll hear
Limbaugh. So
well, that's I was talking more. I'm not knowledgeable enough of Rush to know if that's what he does, but I think that that's something that Tucker kind of does.
So I think Tucker he's just having his personality. I don't think he has a strategy with it other than that's his personality, and he has sarcastic. He's like, this seems really real to me. It's like, I mean, actually, like this is it's just it's his. He just has this feeling like,
well, he has his truth
sniff test. He's like, well, look this things up, and I have all these stories delivered to me, and look at all these, and the pictures come together. It's like this. So we're supposed to believe that this means this. It's like all these stuff exists here, but we're supposed to believe this story. That's just him being himself, and I think it did a pretty good job of acting kind of like his thought process. But
yeah,
but
I mean, I'm in agreement with that. Yeah.
I don't think it's strategy. I don't think he's like trying to create a false image to knock down. I think he's saying like, we all got these same facts, but yet they want to present these facts as being facts and as being a reality. It's like, but like it would take so much more for this to be true, when it's just so much easier for this to be true with these facts that are on the board. And so like he just thinks that like this is just crazy because this is my reaction to it. That's what I get off of him, is he's reacting to like, why would you do it this way? Why would you look at it this way when it's like this? And I don't think he's actually trying to do a thing where he's like being funny and doing whatever else. He's just like,
I don't know if it's an on purpose thing, but I think the act of sarcasm and using sarcasm and irony to point out how ridiculous having a position is, that is in effect creating a box of a fictional character that is silly and dumb.
But
if you were to believe it
by him, but he's just telling you what that character that is out there, and say like, and they expect you to believe this. It's like,
right, exactly. And so he's he's saying, he's saying
something that exists.
They
he's not creating that character in the first place.
I think here, I'll be honest. We are in complete agreement.
Okay.
We are in complete agreement. I would say you agree with me 100%. Because what you're saying is exactly what I'm saying. I think there's maybe just a little bit of
disconnection of what
framing difference. Maybe I'm not being as clear as I should. But yes, I'm in complete agreement with you. I'll go
Okay.
with that.
I probably just not get it. I wasn't getting the nuance difference that you're talking about, I guess.
You maybe you'll listen back to it and you'll be like, okay, I see what
Yeah,
I see
maybe
what
so.
he's saying. I see what he's doing. If anybody else, well, anyways, I think are you good to end it?
Yeah,
You good
let's
to
go
call
ahead.
it? We're 5 minutes over. Works for me.
Yep.
All right. Here's my spiel. If you liked what you saw, if you made it this far and you liked what you saw and what you heard, drop a like. If you really liked it, hit the subscribe button. And if you're looking forward to the next one, hit that bell icon. All right, you guys, take care.